All right, so we are definitely live right now, and I just we've got 29 people coming in. We have quite a few. I think normally we have guests and folks, so we're going to give just a few minutes for some more people to funnel into the podcast here, and we'll get started in 1 or 2 minutes here, maybe like 10:02, 10:03.
Okay. Great. What are you drinking?
It is, well, it's a fancy cup, no less, right? But this is, I think, the Major Dickinson's blend out of the Keurig, which it's kind of meh. I normally am like a fresh ground, fresh brewed coffee geek at home, but it's just it takes time, right? And there is something. It's just I feel bad when you give in to the convenience of the Keurig over actually taking your time and your patience with it. So go figure.
Yeah. I know warm coffee just feels like such a treat. Like I just have black cold brew every day, but
why do you go cold brew?
It's easy. It tastes good to me. I love it. And, but it's easy.
Right on.
I make shitty coffee. That's really what it is. And so I'd rather.
For anybody just joining, I promise you, we're not going to talk about coffee during the entire podcast, but we are given just a couple minutes for people to jam in. So, maybe if you want in the chat while we're waiting to get started, you can throw in your suggestions for best morning coffee. If you have a vote, cold brew, warm brew.
Hi, Carol.
Latte, oat milk. Something weird that we've never heard of. We might have to session Frank the Tank and see what he was drinking in the morning.
Let's see.
All right, cool. So it's 10:03. So let's get rocking because we do, here's the deal, right? So we want to keep these to 30 minutes because we know everybody's busy, and also we're going to keep moving, and we want to try and get as much information as we can in 30 minutes. So we're going to get started. So first and foremost, I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everybody that's on the podcast now that is tuning in to catch us live. We are recording this, and if you have to jump out early or whatnot, don't worry. We're going to post it on, it'll be on Spotify after and YouTube, so you can catch it. Also, huge thank you to our guest, Julie Aragon, for taking time out of her day to join us and just kind of share with everybody some of the tips, tricks, and secrets about her success. I'm just going to give a quick background on Julie, which I had put in the original invitation here. She joined ARBOR back in, I think, 2017, so she's been here for quite some time, one of our seasoned veterans. And she came from the independent channel, and she has always been a top producer. She was a top producer back before she joined ARBOR. But she definitely now she's just always one of our, top 1 or 2 producers in the company. So she has a lot of great insight for us to share. So with that, Julie, can you just take a little minute, introduce yourself, give us some background on yourself and how you got in the mortgage business?
Yes. So thank you for having me. This is really cool. I got in the mortgage business when I was 20 years old. And this is my 21st year, so more than half my life. And I got in, I was in school, and I had come home to visit my boyfriend for the weekend, and a high school friend said, Julie, you should become a loan officer. She was an assistant to a realtor that was like a top producer at the time. And I thought, what a stupid name. What's a loan officer? And so she's like, yeah, they make a lot of money. And, this was 2002. So, and I liked money. So I was like, okay. So got my real estate license. And, back then it was like, here's a blank 1003. Good luck, kid. And that's how it started. I started as a broker, like I feel like we all did in the early 2000s. Really just learned like the industry, kind of raised me, went through the crash. And, once that happened, went retail, right? There was that period where like, if you're not a direct lender, you're out of business. So went to the dark side for several years until finally one day Ryan found me and saved me. And so, been here ever since.
That's awesome. One thing I think, we've been doing these podcasts. We've got this is going to be our third one that we've done. And so you're the first female, not that like we've had this huge, this huge group of people doing podcasts, but you are the first female that we've had on the podcast. You are, the top producing female originator at ARBOR. And, one of the little known facts about ARBOR is we do have a ton of female originators. So I'm just, curious, what's your experience been just being a woman in the field, and what would you share with other women that are at ARBOR now? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah. So I don't ever think I felt like, the gender roles. Like when I started, I was at a company where there was a woman top producer, Maria Looney, who still to this day is, a top producer. And so I always worked in companies where there was that like badass woman, but I never really thought like, I mean, one thing I'll tell you is I use being a woman to my advantage. So like in my marketing, in my business, I can get away with shit that a man never could. So like, for instance, I can be fun. I can be playful. I can tell a dirty joke. I can do things that men can't. And so I think that helps. I use it to my advantage in a lot of ways.
That's interesting. And I feel like, I guess when I was originally going out and I saw your first website, right? And that's, I think, and we were talking about this earlier, that's kind of the vibe that you had. I mean, almost like in your videos, in your early videos that you're making before videos were cool, like really kind of like being honest and almost brutally honest, to the point, to your point, maybe that maybe some guys just couldn't necessarily do or even deliver with the same finesse, right? So
yeah. Like that first video. Yeah, I was drinking all day.
Do you feel like, and I don't know if you have any stats on this, but do you feel like, do you do business, do you think, with more men or women, or do you think women are more attracted to your brand? Is there anything there or is it pretty much just?
I think it's even. Yeah. I do business with a lot, sometimes it's a spouse, but yeah, I can relate to anyone.
Got it. That's right on. So as when we look back into like 2022, and I know we've had 2022 was a grind, right, for all of us. I know, and we've talked about that. What were you doing in 2022, and even what are you doing now, like to kind of stay focused? And I don't necessarily know if reinvent's the right word, but what would you say, like you came down off of like the best 2 years ever? What's kind of your mindset been in 2022, and how have you kind of retooled, and what are you doing to kind of stay on top?
Yeah. So 2022, I mean, it definitely felt like almost 2 years, right? We had the first half, feel it, but by June, then it was like, well, what the hell? And it felt very reminiscent to me of 2009, 10, 11. So where It's like, it's coming. And I remember back then, really like that's when I discovered Carl White and the Mortgage Marketing Animals. And I used to, go to bed with my computer. Like after I was done working, I would have like my laptop on my bed, just watching webinars, teaching myself, a little HTML, like just really digging into marketing and how I could partner with realtors to help them, because they were scared. They hadn't had a deal in months. And so like, what things could I learn? So the next time I'm at that broker's open or that open house or something, I had something of value to teach to them and help them get more business. So last year, then, I really dug into what things in my marketing could I improve, where before, I have Mike and Susie. Susie was working on transactions in 2021. Well, what things could I give her so she could then attract or reach more realtors? And, so we're just we're going back to the basics and talking to people.
You made a comment there where that realtors are scared, right? And that you are empathizing with that, and that you're connecting with them like in a way that it's not that you're kind of trying to help them through that fear. Because I will say, like, I think it's not just realtors, right? It's even loan officers are scared, and they were in 2023, right? And so yeah. You kind of have to be able to go out there and calm those fears and let them know that they've got somebody who's got their back. And kind of on that, if we kind of dive through that just a little bit deeper in terms of connecting with realtors and connecting with partners, right? In terms of like your strategies and when you're reaching out to those realtors, what are you doing what do you think you've done or doing today that's different than most, that really gets people to listen, gets realtors, gets partners to like engage with you? And whether that might be empathizing with that fear, or maybe there's some other cool tips and tricks that you have that get realtors to pick up the phone. And I don't want to just focus on realtors, but maybe past clients, CPAs, financial advisors. Like, where do you see yourself really having an advantage, or opening the, like, tips to open the door there?
Well, so I like to share with realtors our process and how I feel like we have a really strong loan process. So once the deal's in escrow, realtors, we make it fun, we're playful, we're thoughtful, we just do a really good job. And then I let the realtors know, with all of the things that we do, like the moving boxes when loans approval, the Uber Eats after funding, like all of these things. And we're always signing your name on it. We're always, we're checking in with them, and we're asking for referrals, so we don't have to buy shitty Zillow leads. We're going to try to, find you that next new client. And so kind of unpacking what our process looks like, because I know they're not getting that from their current LO. And so letting them know that, and then all of the tools, like ARBOR has a ton of tools that with the marketing department and a best offer package. We've got Curb Hero. We've got a lot of things. And so it's like, I can't physically be in your open house because now I got a little girl who rules me, but I can be there, with this app. And then Susie's going to check in with all of your leads on Monday, anybody who has mortgage questions, and, even our process when we pre-approve a client, and, Mike doing his job on the front end and providing video, we do like a mortgage coach video, and the realtor is a part of that conversation. And then they're seeing, wow, Mike's going over tax deductions and principal pay down, and really, like, the realtor can see all of that. I want the realtor to see all the shit we're doing.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly like, oh, my LO doesn't do that. My LO doesn't do that.
Interesting. So, that is so cool, right? Because, and I'm sure everybody on this call, we have access to those tools. Like, we have Mortgage Coach, and we have, and whether it's the updates or whatever it is in our process, that it's almost like we take for granted that other people may or may not be doing. But I love the fact that you're taking, how you've built your perfect loan process, right? How you go above and beyond the extra mile to take care of your clients, educate your clients. And then you make sure that maybe there is some other loan, like, superstar out there that might be close, but at the very minimum, right, each one of the people you're touching knows that this is how badass your process is. This is how you're going to take care of clients. And you have at least given yourself the opportunity to leverage your process into a relationship versus, hey, a lot of us, I think, get lulled into, oh, I hope they think what I did was good. I hope they think I did a good job. Right. And then I hope when I call them after that, they know all the things I did. Whereas you're like, hey, like, spooning it in there, like, hey, check this out. Like, does your other guy do this? Does your other guy that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Like, when we do so 2 days after loan funds, we send Uber Eats vouchers, and it's just a little note, like, let's be honest, you don't know where the F your spatula is, and enjoy dinner on us. And then it's signed Julie Ann, insert merch tag, realtor partner, and the realtor CC'd. So, like, they didn't do that. They did nothing, but they're getting, like, credit for our thoughtfulness.
That is awesome. I love, and we're gonna get to kind of just that vibe of how you roll out. Like, let's be honest, like, just your marketing genius, I would say. But, you've mentioned a lot in terms of, like, your team, right? And you've talked about Mike and Susie. Can you kind of walk us through just like your growth as an LO, and how you built your team, and how that's kind of, whether it's transformed your business, and the positives, negatives, and just kind of help people who might be out there struggling at ARBOR, doing volume, and not necessarily knowing how to fit the pieces together of building their own mortgage practice and team?
Yeah. I mean, the team was everything for me, because I was stuck, I feel like, at 40, 45 million forever. And really, it was because I was such a shitty, like, hirer. Like, if you had a pulse, I was going to hire you. And so I went through a lot of, like, just not A players. When AJ and I got married, and then he helped me interview and find the right people in the right seats, then everything changed. And then being plugged into ARBOR, it was like, it just allowed me to double. And then, yeah.
What would you say that, so it's interesting that, hiring somebody with a pulse, and then that process, like, can you give us a little more detail, and, like, how you changed the process and how finding the right people, like what really did you look for the second time around? And then all of a sudden when you found the right hire, what, a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So before, like, I hate doing pre-approvals. Like, I can do them, but I just, it's not, you know, I want to focus on like the fun stuff, the marketing, the building the systems and the workflows. And so finding Mike, who is just like this, you know, his brain is so big and he's so detailed that it was like, okay, I have the right person. And then, you know, having that trust and letting, you know, he's going to do all of those consults with the client. He's going to put the mortgage coach together, send a video, all those things. Then that gave me the time and like the, you know, space in my brain to then say, okay, well, how can we make this process like, it's like we're constantly tweaking it. So we use Jungo, but really what unlocked it was me learning how to do my own workflows in Jungo, because out of the box, I mean, it's okay, but it's not what I wanted. So then having the freedom to like, oh, 2 days later, I want this to happen. And I want this notification to go out. And then, so I could build this process that I think is just pretty damn good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what, in terms of like wrapping your head around, because I think a lot of loan officers are scared to build their team and they have a difficult time penciling out the finances and like the benefit. How did you overcome that? Like in terms of, you know, okay, I know that Mike is going to cost me this much, but how did you kind of pencil out in your mind that you were confident enough to make that hire to know you're going to be able to do more production?
Yeah. You know, I was scared, like definitely coming from, you know, hiring somebody that maybe wasn't the best player and she costs less. At first there was that like, oh, can I afford this? But just creating a comp plan that was, you know, based with BIPs that then he felt really invested in the team, because at his previous employer, he wasn't being compensated in the way that he should. And so, you know, as we close more business, he make more money. And I think it's just a really good fit. And I hope he never leaves.
That's awesome. Well, we will send him this and we'll play this, that tagline for him. You can reference this and be like, see, I'm giving you like, this is total PDA. Yeah. Total PDA. Here you go, buddy. That's awesome. So, you know, one thing, and I will just quick aside about how I found you right back in the day. So I was, you know, we weren't even in growth mode at ARBOR, but I was like top mortgage people in LA, and it could have been even on Yelp, right? Because I think back then, you know, Yelp advertising was a real big thing. And I stumbled across your website, and I obviously love and passionate about marketing and our branding and whatnot. And I saw your brand. I was like, and I think a lot of, even my opening email to you was like, hey, I love what you're doing with your brand. Like, would love just to have a conversation with you at some point, because of the way that you had set up your website and set up your videos, and were kind of just like so far ahead of the curve of what anybody else was doing in lending. And also, I think just breaking free of kind of like the, you know, kind of like the stodgy, lame, like even to your point at the beginning, like what a lame name, like I'm a loan officer, right? Like, look at my badge. It's like, come on. Like, yeah. So can you kind of like maybe give us some background, or even like dig into like, when did you really become into marketing? And even today, like you revamped your website. And for everybody on this call, I would highly recommend you go to Julie. I think it's Aragon Lending Team or Aragon Team. Like, just Google Julie, go to her website and check out her vibe, right? So she's done this amazing job of creating her own like vibe in her market. So on that note, like, can you tell us how you did, like you embraced your vibe, how you create it? Also, how do you stay like current and keep reinventing that vibe?
So I think I was born a marketer. Like I've always been, when I was a kid, to call the 800 number to get like the Bowflex information package. Like, you know, it'd say like, call this number for a free informational video. Yeah. I wanted mail so bad. I wanted to be grown so bad. Yeah. And I would love like the packaging. I would love like all of that geeky stuff. I hated children. I didn't want to be one. I didn't want to hang out with them. I wanted to be an adult. And so I think I've always just like, had an eye for marketing, what moves people, because, you know, you can do a lot, make people feel things with your words. And so getting in the mortgage business, and yeah, like it was just all the same, you know, everything, those Alamode websites and just garbage. Yes. And so it's like, well, what if I had, when I was younger, when I was like early in my career, being a woman, being young, being brown, it was like, okay, I got to like wear the Ann Taylor suit and all that crap. And then after the crash,
So good.
and I started like, focused on, marketing and how I could build a business and build websites, build my presence on review sites. It was like, well, what if I just did things my way? And I don't have to, call myself a loan officer, and I don't have to do these things because, yeah. And so I did it my way.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And people at first were like really weird about it. I mean, even now, like, I don't know if you've seen my pre-approval letter, but it's like a picture of me on it. And I always joke, like, Legally Blonde, when she's like, oh, your resume, oh, it's scented, like my shit is just like, it's not like anyone else's. And I think people like it. They feel like their guard is down. They can be, we don't have to, it's just easy. And
authentic, even right. I mean, and that's that authenticity of what you're putting out is different, because I think in our business, right, because it is so stodgy and so numbers driven and so like banky, whatever, right, they're like, banks are not known for being authentic, and they're not known for having a lot of like energy or like cool stuff that emanates from that process, which, I think that's what's been brilliant with your marketing. Even again, like, I'll hammer it again, go to her website and just check it out. Like, she just, I mean, what do you got on there right now? In fact, I'll let you share, like, so on your mortgage tips and tricks.
I don't know what I have there right now. I haven't been there in a while.
There's Taylor. So you've got, I think she's got like Taylor Swift's like tips to, as told. She basically has taken like Taylor Swift and told like how the home pricing process works, like through her songs. And then there's like 90s hip hop. Like it's really cool that, again, I think speaks to a lot of different generations of people of home buyers, and kind of, gets in their mindset. So,
yeah. And using that, because I grew up in the 90s, so I talk a lot about Luke Perry, and even when if I am talking to a realtor, like, I use that line all the time. Whenever I've got a realtor with good hair, I'm like, oh my God, Luke Perry. If I call them Luke Perry, they're just like immediately like, oh, I like her. Right. So so I do that when I had to call a listing agent the other day. My client made an offer, wasn't even a good offer, but and then I went on his Instagram and he had like this picture of his abs. So then I call him like, oh my God, those abs, like right away, I'm going to go in for like, I know something about you, and we're friends, and then if I can build those friendships, then we're going to do more business.
So that I think is something. And again, just to kind of peel that out and to make it, because you talk about it like it's just like, oh yeah, everybody's doing this, and this is part of my like, doesn't everybody in the middle of their purchase transaction find the listing agent, go to their Instagram, find a commonality, and then call them and comment about a personal post, right? And I kind of want to pull that full circle into, we're trying to do and help people understand this at Arbor, but I think it's just, whether you're in coaching, whether Julie's telling it to us on this podcast, like that moment of what you just explained in terms of how to have a conversation with somebody, right? You basically, that you want to have a conversation with that listing agent, but you don't want to come in cold, right? And you don't want to sit there and go, hey, how am I doing on my loan? Right? Like when you go and you're able to say inside of a transaction, go to their Instagram and then take a totally different angle. Like, don't you think that listing agent is going to have such a different perspective in how they're going to have a conversation about their abs they posted on Instagram? They're so proud of their gut workout that they're posting it. And Julie's calling, like, instantly they're having that conversation moves like 3 steps down, or 3 steps up in terms of like where Julie's going to be in the importance standpoint. So I just wanted to make sure that that's not lost on everybody in terms of like a tip here. And are there any other things, like, Julie, that you're doing like that, where you feel like in the loan process or purchase process, you told us about how you're like really hammering on the details of your process, but other little tips like that help you have conversations with folks?
Yeah, so that was actually not somebody I was in transaction with. That was a listing agent that my client had made an offer, so we didn't even get it, right? So the first thing I did, and I do it whenever an agent includes me, is I am CC'd on the offer. I reply back, and I use Vidyard, but you can do BombBomb or whatever. I'm sending a personalized video to that listing agent, just letting them know who I am, the client, what their FICO score is, their DTI stupid low. When I ask for shit, I get it back in 2 seconds. They're not going to have any issues. We get the appraisal order the day we get the RPA. I'm in like 60 seconds because really they don't want a phone call from me. They don't want my voicemail because to them, I'm just another LO, right? So I do this 60-second video. The buyer's agent's on there, they're on there. And I'm just saying, if you have any questions about contingencies, timelines, whatever, give me a call back. I'd be happy to go. I hope we can do a deal together. So I did that video once, and then he replied back, thanked me. They didn't hear back the next day. So that's when I went to his Instagram, saw the ads, left the voicemail, said, I got to talk to you. So then he called me back. Again, we're 30 grand off in price. We didn't get it, but I know he likes me.
So, I mean, that is just like so crazy. And again, I'm sure that people that are sitting here listening to this and just listening to that process, right? I would ask anybody, when your client is making an offer on a purchase, you're not even an escrow. How many loan officers, right, are sending a personalized video to the listing agent along with basically almost like a video follow-up to your pre-approval that's being presented by your agent, but you're sending it directly to that listing agent, saying a video with the details of that transaction personalized, right? And then if they don't hear back, you're helping your realtor by, I'm going to follow up. I'm going to call the listing agent and let me find out what's going on with our offer. Mm-hmm. Like that to me, like, that is something that is what top producers do. I can tell you that because I don't do that. And I know that most people don't. And that's just, if there's a takeaway in terms of adding something to your business flow out there, that's freaking nails. So in terms of like just 2023, we're in April. So what are you, in terms of like goals, like what kind of goals do you have, going into 2023 in terms of like, what's going to be a successful year for you? And also just kind of maybe go beyond that. Like where do you see yourself kind of building your practice to, whether it be through 2023 and even out in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I hope it's 5 years. Like that's, for me.
I do too.
Yeah. It's been a long run. And, right now we're focused on just getting in front of more agents and, because we didn't have to, right? They were falling from the sky. So now going back, doing our research, going on MMI, spending our time with the players that have the ability to refer and really trying to just add value there. So, and right now it just feels like, we're planting all these seeds, and like it happened in 2011, 12, 13, where we just outworked everyone. Like it will turn and we're going to have this pipeline of agents that know, like, and trust us and actually have, deals to give.
I love that. And is there anything in particular in that process, right, that you're finding is working better than most, right? In terms of, I think it is worth noting for everybody, like just doing your homework, right? So you're not out there just calling, random agents, right? You're trying to go after people by volume, by buy-side transactions. And when you, like, just out of curiosity, like, so you find a great agent on MMI, right? Mm-hmm. You want to introduce yourself to them. What of all the moves you're doing, like what works? What do you think works the best in terms of getting somebody to pay attention?
So right now our process, we have our lists of people that we call, and it's a mix from like people that I just on my Instagram, I think look cool. I'll screenshot it, send it to Susie. She pulls up the numbers and then puts them on a list. And depending on like if they're local or I know we have a mutual connection, I might call or Susie will call to get me the Zoom appointment. Right now I'm doing everything on Zoom because it's just most efficient. But I do a 15-minute Zoom with them, kind of learn a little bit more about their business, and then just go through some things that we're doing. And then they're on a 12-week, like, stay in touch campaign. And it's a series of texts, phone calls, ringless voicemail, videos from me, things like that. And we'll do that for 12 weeks. And some of them, they stay on even a little bit longer because I'm like, I want them now. Because I know how good we are. They just don't know it yet, And so until they've really done a deal with us and see like, oh my God, this communication and all this, like, they need to get in it. And so sometimes it's like week 13. I'm like, no, Susie, they're staying on the list. Like, we're going to get them, And it's like, I'll call and be like, why are you playing hard to get? Like, let's do this, you know, and just kind of having fun with them. And we're just breaking them down.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I'll just tell you the mindset, right, of, you know, that mindset, which again, and I it's so natural for you, right? But the fact that the belief and the natural belief that you have in your process and in your value, right, to sit there and make the statement that I know that they need me. They just don't know it yet, right? The willingness to be able to sit there and that's one of those things that, you know, a lot of people struggle with in terms of, you know, facing rejection, that fear of making the call. But if your mindset is like, you know, these people aren't telling me no, right? They just don't get it yet, right? They don't know how bad they need me and how much I can actually help them.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's just awesome. And I think that's just something, again, I want to make sure that as we're doing this, that I kind of highlight the points that I think to you that are so natural and that are just normal to your business. But those are the things that I think differentiate that you're just doing as part of your normal practice that's why you're doing the 50, 60, you know, I think in whatever, I know you did it close to 60 million, I think it was in 2022, which is a horrible year, but you were close up to 100 million the year before and whatnot. And even 60 million last year puts you at the top of the heap, right? Because like we were talking about Scotsman, you're like, I should have put it in there because I did better. Like,
I know.
Year, but like it was awesome.
Yeah, it's so funny because it's like, it was almost like, you know, getting on a scale after vacation. Like you don't even want to look. And when you ask me the numbers, I'm like, fuck Scotsman guide. I don't want to be on that list. I'm like, wait.
That's so funny.
It wasn't so bad.
Right. So we're right about 30 minutes. So I always want to end these calls, right? Because granted, I'm, you know, I love Arbor and I want to give like a shameless plug for Arbor in these deals. So in terms of your experience at Arbor, like what would you say are like your favorite things about the company?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's you guys. Like it's the people at Arbor. I feel like after, you know, being at retail, it was always on my ass, it was always like, you know, just like, I mean, for a lot of reasons, but Arbor, it's like, it's perfect because, you know, when I need something, you guys are there, but the rest of the time you leave me alone. And that's what I want at this stage in my career, right? Like I want to be left alone. But when I need something, I know you've got my back and will help me.
That's awesome. Well, let me check the chat. So if anybody has, like, I just want to have a couple minutes here for some questions. If there's, we'll get a couple of questions out there. If somebody has a specific question for Julie, throw it in the chat and I'll feel free to put it out there to her. And if not, it's all good. Somebody did say that 60 million's amazeballs. I'm getting a lot of thank yous for you. So, all right, well, cool. So I don't see any immediate questions coming in, which means that people are stoked. And I think, anyways, I just want to thank you so much. Like, I always love talking to you, and the fact that I got you for 30 minutes is awesome. And I really appreciate your willingness to share with everybody. So, for those of you who are on here, if you didn't catch the whole thing, like I said, we're going to post it on Spotify. And again, thank you, Julie.
Okay, bye.
All right, catch you later.